Welcome everybody to the second edition of what we call the Rain Voucher. My name's Joe. I'm over here. My very handsome friend Matt Faust is to my right on screen. Matt, we got rained out again.
Indeed,
There was a
we
thunder.
did. We
There was
did.
thunder and lightning like this time. It was for real
It
this time.
was quite a storm earlier today. I mean, it's actually like kind of beautiful out now, but it was
Mhm.
quite the storm earlier. Yeah,
Yeah, no way they
indeed.
would have. I don't know how it was in Abbottstown. I'm like an hour away from Abbottstown, but if it's anything like what it was here, there's no way the track would have ever been good to go. It would have been a swamp.
Yeah, I was just down in Gettysburg, and it's still like, I mean, the clouds are still down there, so it could storm at like any second right now too. So it was the right call to not race today.
Mhm. But even though they didn't race today, we didn't lose a night of racing because
That is true.
they rescheduled it to Thursday, which was originally going to be our day off, but instead Monday is our day off. Now, I'll let you go first on how you feel about that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to have an extra day off, but at the same time, we already lost one race. It's nice not to lose another one. So that's good. It worked out. I mean, Lincoln jumped on it. I mean, Williams Grove easily could have been their night. They could have taken it. I've seen a lot of things on Twitter, people saying it's unfair. Lincoln just takes the night when other tracks could need it. It's like, well, I mean, first come, first serve. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So I don't think there should be any issue with it. And yeah, no, I'm glad they did it. I wish I had an extra day off, but I had that today, so I can't complain.
I agree. I wish that I like the idea of Thursday being the day off because if Thursday was the day off, it would have been what we would have gotten through six of the races and then had a day off and then finished out the four,
Mhm.
and it would have been nice to break them up a little bit more. Besides, like we did two, and now we're gonna have
Now we have seven more.
yeah, we have seven to go, and they're all gonna be back to
Yeah.
back to back to back to back, and now I don't know. I mean, I heard Grandview's a maybe with rain. Uh,
Hmm.
we'll have to wait and see about that one. I think we're probably just for our own sake, Matt and I will more than likely, unless it's just a complete wash tomorrow, we'll be at least on our way out there before it
We
would
will
be.
make an effort,
Yeah.
at least.
Well, yeah, we will be making. Well, more than likely we will be making an effort either way, but
Yeah.
um, so we might not have a race tomorrow, which would be a shame because I think the mid-week races are the ones that people like help with coverage-wise.
Hmm.
So for
Yes.
the selfish side of things, it would have been nice, but also it is a long haul to Grandview, and
Hmm.
yeah, but I
It's a
shouldn't.
bittersweet thing. It's very bittersweet.
Yeah, and it's bittersweet tonight too because like you said, if it hadn't have rained, it would be a beautiful night to be at Lincoln.
It's a beautiful day outside right now.
Yeah,
That is for sure.
yeah. But nonetheless,
It is what it is.
it is what it is. And we're going to be there. So Thursday night will be, and the icebreaker was a Thursday night, and I recall not dying at work the next day. So
Yeah.
we'll live.
Yep. It'll
But
be okay.
yeah,
It'll be okay.
yeah, we'll still have hopefully nine races for a speed. Um, so yeah,
Hopefully. Hopefully.
that's yeah. Well, that's pretty much it on the rain conversation.
Mhm.
If for anybody who's watching along, if you don't know the drill, Matt and I are here live. We are keeping track of the comments, so question answer time is just all the time. Any questions, feel free to throw them at us, and we will answer them. And then this video will get re-uploaded for anybody who wants to watch it later. But in the meantime, we can move on to our next topic that we wanted to discuss: the points tally coming into the night off now. I'll put the graphic up on the screen that we had. This was featured in the recap from BAPS last night, but Matt, the top, what I'd say the top three are kind of names we expected. Honestly,
Mhm.
didn't really expect Tanner Thorson to be up there, and also I don't think I really expected Freddie Raymer to be in the top five after those the first
Mr.
weekend like that.
Consistent.
Yeah, he's very quietly been consistent in staying in there. Reinhardt, great run at BAPS. He's one of his best tracks and did well at Lincoln. Dylan Norris, Brent Marks is very far down, and so is Lucas Wolf because of the accident they had last night in the feature. And Jeff Halligan just kind of sneaking along in there, but
Just kind of chilling in top 10, yeah.
yeah. What for you? For me, I think it's Thorson. But what name on that list is the kind of the most surprising, whether for where it is in the top 10 or to be there? Which one is kind of the standout for you?
I think, and this is, I mean, a 4-time Speedweek champion, but the fact that Lucas Wolf has started on pole for 2 races and is only 9th in the standings, I mean, it just shows Lincoln just got passed a lot and all of that. But, I mean, Babs, he was able to hold his own. I mean, he wasn't letting Danny Dietrich pass. I mean, Danny Dietrich did kind of slip through on those closing laps at Babs, but I think Lucas Wolf still would have been good for a top 4, top 5 last night if he didn't have some sort of issue, just got pushed off the track during the red flag. He wasn't involved in the incident. So very unfortunate for him. I mean, when you start on pole twice, you like to get at least a top 5 out of it. That's some good points for Speed Week, whether you're winning or not. Top 5s are a lot of points, and it's really tough to see. I mean, he's in 9th, and I mean, Brent Marks had a DNF. I mean, they both had DNFs, but Brent Marks has had to work his way up, and he's still ahead of him. So interesting. I think that's kind of the surpriser for me.
Fair enough. I would agree with that. I was surprised with Lucas. The determination side of things, sort of the grit that he carried with what happened in that heat race at Lincoln, and then he got all the way back up into 5th, which is the last transfer. And then Baps last night, I mean, he won his heat race, started up front, and very unfortunate circumstances. I think he was admittedly kind of falling back when he got into that accident with Brent Marks, but definitely should have been further up. But
I agree.
Yeah. Does that for you? Now I know it's early, but we know Brent Marks can win a lot of races, but we've also seen consistency is the way. 2021 went to Danny Dietrich because of consistency, not race wins.
Correct.
Do you think this? How big of a thorn is this for Brent Marks' chances?
I mean, he's 155 points back. A perfect night wouldn't even get you. I mean, it would definitely bring him back up the points if he wins a race and has just a good night like Macri's been having. But if Macri's just getting top 5s from here on out, I mean, he's going to win. That's just how it is. So, I mean, Marks, if anything, this just has to be his one hiccup, and he's got to hope that Macri has a race like he did too, so that it evens out the playing field. If Macri finishes every race, I just don't see Marks. If Macri finishes every race like he has been, I mean, obviously he won both, but in the top 5, top 10s, Marks is going to need to do something insane like win the next 7 races to really win it. So it's very possible. I mean, I said it in my video that'll be coming out. Marks, his winning ways could easily shoot him back up there, but he's going to need some help from Macri. It's not all in his control anymore, which is unfortunate. Whereas you look at Justin Peck, it's still in his control. If he wins some races, he's only 61 points back. Even if Macri finishes second and he gets 3 wins, he's ahead of him. So it's interesting to see. I mean, really, when you look at the points, I mean, the closest 61, and then you look at 5th, Freddie Raymer's 120 points back. So Macri is really pulling away with it, which we saw last year. Granted, Brent Marks had a better start, but we saw this last year, and then it faded away. And something he mentioned in his interview, his guys just got to be ready for everything that's going to come their way. Not every night's going to be perfect and stock like you expect. So that's what they just have to be ready for.
And I like that you mentioned Peck there, because sort of in the middle of this conversation, I realized that we were talking about the leader of the championship right now and 8th place. And more than less, we completely kind of skipped over everybody in between, which is, I think everybody in between is a full week driver. I think everybody in the top 9 are doing all week. So Danny, great, Danny won in 21. Tanner Thorson has been pretty phenomenal so far. Freddie Raymer is Mr. Consistent. Reinhardt had a great start. Norris had a great start. Jeff Halligan's even sneaking good starts. Now he's not running the whole week, but like we gotta mention that there are 7 other names right there.
Correct.
So
there's a lot of people in contention for this, but you really need to start winning races, and Macri needs to start falling back, because that is just a huge jump for some people in the points.
Yeah, I'm watching Peck. I think Peck's good. And Danny Dietrich definitely. I would be very surprised if Danny doesn't win a race by the end of the week, I'd be very surprised because he just seems like he's got what it takes.
He's putting himself up there.
Yeah.
So he mentioned on Twitter last night that he really botched the setup. Botched wasn't the word that he used, but he wasn't happy with what the setup gave him, and he just hasn't been looking good in traffic. Obviously, he led most of Lincoln, but ultimately couldn't get through that traffic and keep up a good pace that everyone else could. Marks was even further. Macri got to him quick, but even Marks was able to get to him very quickly as well. So
yeah,
needs to figure out some things with that. But if anyone's going to figure it out, it's going to be Danny.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think that was something that happened last night that didn't really happen quite as much at Lincoln, but yeah, you're right. Like him and Lucas, they got caught up too. I mean, Peck, Thorson, who was in there? I think like Brent Marks. They were all.
Yeah, Borden was getting involved in that too.
Yeah, and Borden was there too, and I said
they were holding up the pack.
Yeah, well, I said it wrong earlier too. Lucas didn't get in the wreck with Brent. Lucas went back behind the wall.
Yeah.
Borden was the one who wrecked, but yeah, that whole group was catching up very quickly to Lucas and Danny, and ended up, Thorson and Peck ended up getting onto the podium instead, and Danny finished fourth. So, yeah, I see the slow thing you're talking about. But like you said, if there's somebody who's gonna kind of put the horns on and kind of get in there like a linebacker, it's gonna be Danny Dietrich. He's gonna take.
The good thing is he's frustrated and he's getting top fives. He's frustrated with top fives. Yeah. I mean, that's just how you have to feel when someone like Macri is winning his heat races and being the fastest driver in qualifying going into his heat and winning all the races. I mean, you're going to be frustrated when you're not that guy and someone is. But yeah, Danny will figure it out. He'll definitely get some wins. I could see him winning multiple races this week. I don't think anyone else would disagree with that.
Yeah, I could see him doing it. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have at least one by the end of it, because pretty much every track we go to is a track he has or can very easily win at. So I would agree with that. One thing I thought would be kind of cool to do, we could break down points-wise in each segment of the night who's really good. Like qualifying, who's good in the heat races, who's got the feature points. Well, I mean, the feature points is easy. Anthony Macri's got
250 right now, yeah.
And then Justin Peck has 190, which, what does that average out to? That averages out in the top
2.5.
Yeah, and Danny's only got 5 points less than him, 185. So for a guy who's frustrated with his performance, to be 5 points behind Justin, I mean, that's not even a position.
He has third and fourth place finishes, so he's obviously running well. It's just not good enough to beat Macri right
now. Freddie Raymer, who I definitely, admittedly myself, I wasn't watching a ton last night because there were some really great races to watch, some really great battles, but he wasn't somebody who was making enough noise for me to go, I should keep an eye on him. But he just very calmly got to the end of the race and ended up 7th, but with all the extra points that he's gotten.
I believe he was in 5th. Was he 5th? Okay. No, but in the feature, I think he was 5th. No, 7th. Okay, my bad. Yes, he was 5th at Lincoln.
Right. So he averaged out to a 6th place. That's. I thought I just didn't keep an eye on him, and 7th isn't really anything to cry home about when you're 24 cars, but still important. From there, back to Kyle Reinhardt, 6th in points. He's got 130 feature points, and then 125 for Dylan Norris. Brent Marks has 105. Lucas Wolf has 85, and Jeff Halligan has 95. So Lucas Wolf is using the heat race and qualifying points to his advantage to stay ahead of Halligan in the points right now.
Correct.
Right. So we can look at the points for qualifying. The guy who has the most is Justin Peck. Let me check those notes on what he's got: a 1st and a 3rd. So he was quick time at Lincoln and 3rd at Baps. And then who's the next behind him? I think Thorson's the next behind him, isn't he? With 68.
Thorson should be.
Yeah, because Thorson's did 5th and 1st, which would average out to like a 3rd. So that tracks. So it's Peck, and then Thorson, and then who else? Would it be Macri? It's got to be Macri because I'm not
I would
seeing.
believe.
I'm seeing
He
61%.
qualified seventh. Qualified seventh on the first night.
I'm not seeing anybody else with more than 60 qualifying points, so it's got to be Macri here.
Yeah, Macri was 61. Yep.
Seventh and second, so that would be about 4.5. Yeah. So Thorson right now is the second best qualifier, and Justin Peck is the best qualifier so far, with Macri in third. Now Macri can get it done at the end of the night, but I think that still says something about having a good car the whole night long, which is something that the Speedweek points pay dividends for.
Correct.
So,
I think one thing Justin Peck said in his interview, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but he said he can't make anything happen in the first half of the races because you see him move up through the field and get up into those podium places, or at Lincoln, I believe he was fourth. But either way, solid top five. He's running well. The car is fast. He just needs to be a little bit more aggressive. And just what that looks like. I mean, it sounds like he's good in traffic. If he can make moves later in the race, sounds like he has a really good car, can weave through traffic, but doesn't have the pure pace when they're trying to hunt down those lap cars. So something will be interesting to see how he improves on, what adjustments he makes throughout the week.
Yeah, that would be an adjustment that they would want to look for making because people who start further back. This is something I think we've seen Lance DeWeese do at like the Grove when the World of Outlaws and All Stars come into town. If you don't qualify well, you can have a great car and have a great finish, but you'll start 19th and finish third, and that's a good finish. But we're here to win, and especially with the way the points pay out for the feature, winning gets you the most points by a fair amount. So that would definitely be something I would think the Book group are gonna think critically for tomorrow night if we're at Grandview or at least down to Hagerstown. So yeah, but it's a different deal. Either of those racetracks is a completely different deal. Grandview race is different. It's still short, but it races different than Lincoln and Baps. And then Hagerstown's a big track. I personally think you may chime in on this, but out of all of our tracks in Central PA, the main ones at least, there's like the big five. Baps and Lincoln are pretty similar. I think Baps, if it was a little bit more banked, would be a little more similar to Lincoln, but they race, I think, closer. Because we've talked about, I mean, Williams Grove and Port Royal don't race the same. They are different. They're very different.
Do not. Beasts. Completely different tracks.
And Sealands Grove kind of mimics, I don't know which one. Actually, I don't even know which one I would say it mimics more.
I would say it mimics Port just for like the long sweeping turns and it's banked. I would say it's a little bit more sweeping.
I think that's fair. But yeah, it's going to be different.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Devin Borden's going to be fast at Port. You know that.
Yeah.
He's good at the slick, fast tracks, sweeping turns. That's where he'll be good. But then that's also where Anthony Macri has shined. So it'll be different. But, last year Anthony Macri dominated the All-Star races and the World of Outlaw races at Port Royal. But Brent Marks was the only one to win during Speedweek, I believe. Right? He won both during Speedweek.
I can double check that.
I believe last year at Port Royal. I know he won the Hodnett Classic, but I think he won the midweek show as well. It could have been Larson, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say, was it Larson or him?
It might have been Larson. But either way, I mean, Macri dominated last year in the big events, but did not win a race at Port Royal during Speedweek. So it'll be something to keep an eye on. I mean, we know Brent Marks is going to be up there and going to be fighting for wins. So that could be the last weekend sweep could be really big for him.
You were right. Marks won both of them.
Did it? Okay.
But, I mean, last year, Baps rained out, but the first two nights went to Anthony Macri.
Anthony Macri. Yeah, he had the same start as last year.
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
No, this is the same thing he had last year. He just faded away. And ultimately it was because Brent Marks became dominant throughout the week and consistent, but now he has a hiccup. I don't know. I feel like he had a good top five in both of those races, the first two last year. So he has a little bit, he's going to be fighting against the grain. So it'll be interesting to see. He's going to have to win a lot and need some help from Macri, but Macri just looks really strong, and I don't think that team wants to watch the same thing happen again 2 years in a row.
No, and they've been running on all 8 cylinders this year already. They're definitely, I think Macri's team is stronger this year than they were last year, and they got 18 wins last year. They were the winningest car features-wise. in the country, but Marks was the winningest money wise, and depending on what your goals are, that might
Two
be
great
close up.
cars in the country.
I think two of the best cars in the country, and they were both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the road and at home, they are some of the best cars in the country.
Mm-hmm. So that's qualifying, and then for the heat races, the number 48 of Danny Dietrich and the number 39M, they've both have they both won at both nights? They have.
They both won both turns. Yes.
Yeah, they both won. So there's 2 heat races for each of them because heat races. And then there's a bunch of people who have 32 points. After Tanner Thorson. Thorson has earned himself 38 points total in heat races because he finished.
Yeah, he has a first and a second.
Yeah. So he's got plenty there too. That's definitely, I think, showing why he's able to get up at the front and stay up at the front. Maybe the difference why he was on the in a good spot at the end of like Lincoln and Brent Marks wasn't, and probably Baps too. You could say the same thing because Brent had to charge his way up there and ended up in a crash. Thorson was out of the way of trouble, so that would definitely kind of roll forward. But he's got 38 total points from heat races, and then there's a bunch of guys with 32 points from heat races. Kyle Reinhardt, Dylan Norris, Brent Marks, Lucas Wolf, Cameron Smith, Devin Borden, and that's all the guys who've got 32 points. So 32 points, what does that average out to? That averages out to, I got to try to do some math here. That averages out to third, both nights.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things that surprises me about that group is that if you averaged it out, Cam Smith has like a third place lock.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that right? Actually, wait a minute. Hold on. Did I do that right?
Yeah, he finished first and then fifth.
Yeah.
So it's third.
Yeah, it's third. That's
1 + 5 by 2.
Kind of surprising, honestly. There are a lot of people who like Cam Smith a lot, and I do too. I think he's good. Mm-hmm. Admittedly, when they had Troy and Cam in the Trone cars together, and it was a thing like which one of them are they going to keep? They ended up running both of them for most of the way through, but I think Troy Wagaman is one of the most, if not the most underrated sprint car drivers in Central PA. He is he's quite good, and he proved it with the Hefner car too. But I was expecting him to kind of shoot off with the Trone team, and it just didn't. But Cam seems to mesh really well with them, and so far in Speedweek, he's at least heat-wise been really good, and at the beginning of the night, he's been very good. He's only, he's in 16th in points, but he didn't, his features haven't been stellar, but
they have not, no.
Yeah. He's been pretty good.
I mean, yeah, 17th and 16th place finishes in the features, just not ideal. But, I mean, someone who could get into the top 10 points very easily. So, I mean, you're just going to have to clean up certain things throughout the night. He isn't qualifying super well, which is ultimately why he was able to win a heat race at Lincoln due to the invert. I mean, obviously qualified well enough to start on pole, but really at that point, you just got lucky that he was the first person in line in that heat race, because normally in the heat races, except for last night at Baps, the heats were fairly dicey. But at Lincoln, pretty much if you were in front, you were leading the train and you were going to win the heat.
The heat races last night were really good. They were exciting.
Very racy.
Yeah.
Very racy.
Yeah, those were fun.
Macri came from fourth and knocked out. There were only 7 people in the redraw because he was the fastest qualifier and he won his heat. Mm-hmm. So he got a knockout bonus for that. So he's been incredible. It's hard to say anything bad about Anthony Macri right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Cam's done pretty well with that, and and the rest of them are also guys who deserve credit for being strong, but I don't know. Cam wasn't. I was expecting a little more development time, but he's at least got the front end of the night figured out. Just got to figure out how to make it work at the end of the night too.
And that may just come from him sitting back and learning. It's one thing I thought about last night is that he is fast. It's just one of those things. He's not going to try and tear up a bunch of equipment right now because that's not what you want to do when you're young. You don't want to be the young kid wrecking cars.
Right.
So he's just being patient, getting good finishes, getting into features, and then you'll pick up more of that as you come in. I mean, great racing happens in the back of the pack, so he'll learn his racecraft and really learn how to drive his car in dirty air. And then, whenever he gets up there, gets a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more confident. Easily going to see him being a top guy in a few years for sure.
Yeah. You can hear the train, right? You can hear that through my mic.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can. Yes.
Yeah, I figured. Bonk.
Mm-hmm.
I live right next to
Bah.
the train tracks, and I have my windows open because the air conditioning doesn't get into my room very well. So that's the we've done the features, we've done qualifying, we've done heats. B mains aren't really. I don't think there's a ton to talk about. I mean, both of the B mains we've had so far, the guy who was the winner won by a country mile. Um,
Yes.
Kyle Moody and Austin Bishop were the two of them. But night number one, we had a really great race. Dallas Shot and Brandon Raymer, they got their spots. But we had a really good race with
Mm-hmm.
Zane Rudisil trying to hold off Troy Wagaman for the final transfer
Mm-hmm.
spot, and he did. That was pretty
He did.
cool. If you think about
And they both had to dice their way to get to the transfer
Yeah.
spot. They weren't just like starting fourth and fifth. They both worked their way up to get there,
Mhm.
and then just had a great battle between each other. But ultimately, Zane was driving the wheels off of that car to keep it in there.
If you think about who the underdog is in that situation, it was Zane Rudisil.
Zane.
I mean, it's a
Zane
family
Rudisil by
team.
far.
It's a family team. He doesn't run a ton of races at different tracks besides Lincoln. He sort of just kind of sticks to Lincoln, but he raced at the Grove. He raced obviously he's raced around before, but Lincoln's his track, so he was quite good there. And then night number 3 of the week, which was the second race, it was Bishop, Rumsey, Halligan, and Mark Smith. That was also a good B main. There was a lot of action going on. There was a nice battle in kind of the third and fourth area, and it's hard. The question is like, are you surprised about Mark Smith or not? Because he's been racing for a while. He's really good. He's like, I think third or fourth in Western PA Speedweek points from their Speedweek. He's running the Rutherford car, and with all of the experience he has, but that was his first race of the week. It's like, is that surprising or is it not?
I think to me it just shows how many people are established in this region that you just know are going to be locked into features off of their heat races and not going to be in the B main. There's just certain people that you just know like they are not going to be in the B main. If they are, something went wrong. So not super surprising. I think the one thing I thought leading on, Austin Bishop almost got chased down by Logan Rumsey. So
Yeah.
that was kind of a cool battle to watch because compared to, Dallas Shot trying to hunt down Kyle Moody, I mean, that was just nowhere near. But the track wasn't fantastic. I mean, it was good, a great race at Lincoln. But up until the feature, we didn't see the most incredible racing, just all around. You had some guys like, as we mentioned, Zane Rudisil and Troy Wagman who had good battles. But yeah, Mark Smith, there's just so many established people that you know are going to just be in the feature. So many teams that just this is what they're here to do. Central PA Speedweek is what they are here for every year. It is the 10 days or 10 races that matter the most. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure how many events Mark Smith will be at, but I think he could definitely contend for top 15s, maybe a top 10.
I would agree with that. It was. I think the thing for me with last night was just that it was his first night out, and there were a lot of guys that it wasn't. So there were a lot of people who could carry some momentum from the night prior, maybe learn a thing or two about the way the weather is. I mean, air humidity and air temperature, cloud cover, and all that junk makes a pretty big difference in track surface. And with rain, there's plenty of moisture in tracks and whatnot. Now, by the end of the night, sort of the B main area, BAPS was getting nice, and there were a couple lanes, but yeah, just I was kind of expecting Mark to need a little bit of an extra push, but he did it. He did it, so I can't knock him. And I would never talk down on Mark Smith. I like Mark Smith. I like his versatility as a driver. I like his experience as a driver. He's still winning races. He's been racing. He's one of the few names out there that I remember from being a wee lad, being a little kid, And I remember him very easily because he ran the Brickers car. I had the diecast of it. It's like I remember that. I remember him. Like Lance DeWeese was around. Fred Raymer was around. Stevie Smith. Like those were the names we grew up with. So.
Correct.
Yeah. Chad Layton, names that Brian Lepo.
Lucas Wolf still.
Lucas Wolf.
He's still out there running.
Lucas Wolf. Danny Dietrich. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the B names. That's really all the points tallies. I mean, is there anything else that kind of sticks out to you, Matt, that's worth noting, or anybody that kind of sticks out to you? I'm looking at like Devin Borden, seeing how far down he is in the points. Like, I mean, I know he wrecked last night, but I think that's going to change.
No, he's had it unfortunate at Lincoln. His wing got knocked in, and he was charging up to the front. I mean, who knows if we would have been in contention to win? I think that was just going to be between the three aces for the posse, but could have gotten a good top 5 out of it, and ultimately fell back. And then last night was doing the same thing, and ended up getting into a pretty nasty flip. So, excuse me, sorry. I think Borden will move up. Excuse me, I gotta go.
All right, give him a second here. I would think that Borden's going to move up. I think that he's been faster than his results show, and he's with a good team. They're going to run the whole week. They've got what they need, resource-wise, to put something together. So I'm watching. I have that off. What is going on there? Did I do something? Oh, I did. So I did do something there. Okay. Yeah. To reiterate what Matt was going to try to attempt to say.
Yes. Precisely.
Yes.
You took the words out of my mouth because I couldn't speak them.
You couldn't get them out yourself.
I could not.
Oh. So yeah, there's that. Do you have anything else you wanted to try to get out of that mouthful?
No, it's just, he should be further up. I don't think he's not someone that could be fighting Macri for wins right now. In those nights that he was racing, I mean, he certainly can throughout the rest of the week, but 18th place is not where Devin Borden belongs. He knows that. It's just been 2 unfortunate nights, and they'll regroup and they'll get better. It's unfortunate because this probably 2 hiccups is not what you want to win PA Speedweek, but hopefully he can pull out a good top 5, salvage some race wins, and really just leave a mark and give them that hunger to want to come back and do more rather than just frustration.
Right. I think Devin's that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So just to round off on the points conversation, so we talked about the top 10 at the very beginning here. We'll run down the list. I'll go the whole way. We'll go all the way.
Okay.
So 11th place in points is a tie at 142 points between Tyler Ross and TJ Stutz. 13th is Chad Trout with 139 points. 14th is Lance DeWeese with 133. Ryan Smith has 132. Cameron Smith has 119. He's in 16th place. Kyle Moody has 117. Devin Borden has 111 in 18th, as we've mentioned. Chase Dietz has 107. He only raced at Lincoln. He's in, I'm getting the thing that Matt had, 19th. Troy Wagaman in the Hefner car is 20th. Skylar G had a pretty solid night, I'd say, and got himself 21st in the order. Trey Hivner has 79. He's in 22nd. Austin Bishop has 75. He's in 23rd. Billy Dietrich has 52. Brandon Raymer has 47. Riley Emig has 43. Tim Gladfelter has 40. Logan Rumsey has 25. Dallas Schott has 24. Mark Smith is 30th with 20 points. Then it's Zane Rudisil and Brett Strickler with 11 each in 31st. 33rd is Aaron Bollinger with 10. Jordan Givler has 9. 35th is Tyler Esch with 8. Then Campbell and Chris Arnold have 36. Tyler Reeser has 5. Glendon Forsyth has 4. Eddie Lumbar has 3. Stephen Downs has 2. And then Alan Crimes, Kyle Spence, Tyler Bear, and Jeff Miller all have 41. That is everybody so far.
Wow. Quite the list we got going.
Yeah, it's only 2 nights in. Well, 3 nights in, I guess you could say, but who's counting?
Correct. Yeah.
I'm counting.
I guess it's 4 nights in, technically, right?
Yeah, technically, this is the 4th night. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and just one more time pitch this. For those of you who are with us right now, if you have any questions or anything you want to shout at us for us to talk about, just put it in a comment in the stream here. we are more than happy to talk about whatever. We only have one more thing on our own list to talk about tonight, and we've been on for a while, but I am curious for you, Matt, if you have anybody this week so far who you've liked, who's been good, competitive, impressive, that we haven't really talked about. Like we've kind of talked about Troy Wagaman. We've talked about the tribulations of Devin Borden. We've talked about Lucas Wolf starting on pole twice. We've talked about the heavy hitters, but is there any other points that are worth noting? Anybody that's kind of sticking out to you?
Let's see here. I mean, I guess we haven't had a live stream, but Chad Trout, talked about it in the recap. Chad Trout had a really good night at Lincoln and then missed the feature at BAPS last night, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was someone we predicted before the race who said who was going to be the biggest movers in the points. And I said, I bet Chad is probably going to be the biggest mover in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, I was right. I didn't want to be right. But he had a great run, 6th place at Lincoln, was able to pass Freddie Raymer in a heat race, which is just unheard of at Lincoln. Passing Freddie Raymer at Lincoln is unheard of.
Yep.
Even in big events. Freddie Raymer, he might not start in the best spot for a World of Outlaws race, but he is going to finish there or better. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I guess Chad Trout, we're not going to see him many places, but if we have come Thursday night at Lincoln, maybe he can get another solid run. That just messes up with the people, takes away points from people who really need it. And it's fun to watch. You like to see that. You like to see your local guys do those because then you're going to see them race more.
Yeah.
So,
well,
it's
and
good.
Chad passed Freddie Raymer at a point in the night where nobody was passing. That was
correct.
A part of that was very impressive, was that the track was not in passing shape yet, and he passed Freddie Raymer. We had talked to Steve in that crew, Steve Lloyd, about Chad Trout having such a great run at Lincoln, and the heavy hitting point that I really respect from Steve was that he talks to Chad about the nights they have and whatever, and he's always saying to Chad, you're the only one of these guys, like referring to the guys up at the front of the field, you're the only one of these guys competing for like the win in a top 5 that has to go to work tomorrow. You're the only one.
Correct.
And he's right. I mean, Chad was the only one up at the front competing for the win that has a day job.
Correct.
I mean, Freddie does have a day job. Freddie Raymer does have a day job, on the record. But there's Freddie's, he's got everything he needs. Rich Eichelberger has plenty of money, and Freddie's been racing his whole life, and the only reason he has a day job is because Fred won't let him not have a day job. Fred Raymer, Fred Raymer got very lucky. He got to make a career out of racing sprint cars. Freddie Raymer, we don't live in that world anymore, unfortunately, and he makes him do it. But Freddie, But Chad Trout has to get up and go to. Chad Trout went to work today. Chad was at work today, and he was probably he was probably thinking, yeah, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go run Lincoln tonight. They were probably going to try to go do it.
They would have been there for sure.
He was going to work 8 hours and then go race. That's a lot. I mean, for us going to work and then going to the race, and we don't even drive the cars. We just sit there and watch and write notes.
Correct.
We have, we bought a case of NOS for the week.
Yeah.
So
you're sitting right over there.
I have a ton of respect for Chad Trout. I have a ton of respect for that team. They are the little engine that could when it comes to Lincoln. And I don't want to say that in a negative way because that team is nothing to mess with at Lincoln. They're solid. They're strong. But when you compare it to, Brent Marks and Anthony Macri, who literally travel the country and make hundreds of thousands of dollars in just race winnings doing this, Freddie Raymer, who's already got 5 wins at the track, Justin Peck, that team does the same. Like that, that's a good deal.
Yes, very, very good deal. I mean, and he's won a race at Lincoln this year.
Yeah.
But it's fun to see people like Chad Trout, those guys going up there and competing. Because it improves the competitiveness in general. It just shows you how good each one of these drivers are, and there's no pushover
Right.
when it comes down to it.
Right.
So that's what PA Speedweek's all about.
Mm-hmm. Another name I like off this list that I want to get my 2 cents in on is Jeff Halligan.
Yes.
Jeff Halligan races Port, but he, at least in my time paying attention to sprint cars and keeping track of stuff, when he goes to Lincoln, he is always competitive. He is always
He's good.
A top 10-ish car at least.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not running the whole. Is he running the whole week?
I don't know. We haven't heard whether he is or isn't. But no, I don't believe he's on the list that we know as of now.
Mm-mm.
But I mean, he went to PAPS, so
yeah,
we'll see.
He goes to Lincoln sometimes. He goes.
Yeah, and he goes to the Grove as well.
Yeah, so he'll probably be at those races in Port.
Yeah.
Probably Sealands Grove too. I would expect Sealands Grove.
I would imagine to miss down the two oddballs of Grandview and then Hagerstown. Yeah. But maybe we'll be wrong. We'll find out.
True, could be wrong. But anyway, just to point that out, I think maybe I don't know for sure. Maybe people know this, and I don't know that they know this. But I think he's an underrated driver when he shows up to Lincoln. I think he's competitive. He's very competitive at Lincoln. And last night at BAPS, he held station enough to be in the top 10 in points still. My main point is, I guess, on the Lincoln side, but underrated.
Well, I mean, even in his feature, he finished 15th, but he also was a transfer from the B main. So he still passed a decent amount of cars to get there. Granted, you know, he had some help from at least 3 people that were not in the race any longer.
Yeah.
But he still moved his way up and put himself in a position to keep himself inside the top 10. So
yeah.
He's definitely shown speed, and he shows that, you know, he's a good driver. You know, maybe not, you know, the cream of the crop like we talked about earlier with the people that are in the top 5 and the top. Well, he is in the top 10. Can't say that. But the people who are just going to be fighting for wins a lot, he might not be there, but he's still a very good driver and deserves to have his name. Have some respect on his name, should I say.
I would agree with that. I mean, he's won a race at Port Royal this year, so he's got a race win this year. He's usually good for 1 or 2 a year.
I was going to say, like, maybe multiple, at least one, maybe multiple wins.
It's usually good for 1 or 2. So I could see him getting one by the end of Speed Week. It's possible.
So. Hey, man, if everything goes your way, you just need one good night. That's all you need. And he's had 2 decent nights so far.
Yeah.
He shows that, once again, the same thing as Chad Trout. He's just not a pushover. Yes. You know, he's someone who is fast. He's someone who knows how to drive. Just may not be in the best equipment, but if everything falls in the line, he can easily win a race.
Yes, I'd agree with that 100%. Yeah. Those are the guys off the list for me. Besides also, I guess, Trey Hivner with a great qualifying run. He went out early, but still, Trey Hivner, nice qualifying run last night.
Yeah, very good run.
Yeah. But those are the names that kind of stick out to me on the list. So.
Good. Agreed.
Word. Check if there's anybody chilling with us.
We got a hello, Joe.
Hello to Racer X. We are here. Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Go Bears. They won the Calder Cup, dude.
You're about to say Stanley Cup. That'd be crazy.
I'm still reeling. I'm still reeling off of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was good. I'm a big Bears fan.
That was awesome.
That's my off season why I don't kill myself.
That's your will to live during the winter.
That's my winter will to live.
The Chili Bowl and Hershey Bears.
There you go. You're right.
Anything that happens in the Tulsa Expo Center.
Yes. Tulsa Shootout even. I like micros.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, that's kind of like the thing leading up to New Year's and leading into the Chili Bowl. So, Giant Center and Tulsa Expo Center. It's really what keeps me going in the winter.
Yeah, that's right.
Good deal. Good deal.
There's not really anybody saying anything tonight. I think we're okay. Closing thoughts for tonight, tomorrow. Anything you got to say, Matt Faust? If there's anybody out there who wants to say anything, now's the time. Matt, what do you have to round us out with?
Devin Borden, top 4 finishing points for PA Speedweek.
Top 4?
Top 4.
I respect that. I I'm just happy to be here, man. I got all my stuff
There you go.
right here. All of this mess is my stuff that I'm packing to be ready to continue our circus run for the rest of the week.
Oh yeah.
So I'll have to deal with that. But
Ain't no rest for the wicked, man.
that's right. And the 4th of July will be the rest for the wicked because
Yeah.
we will be asleep. And I'm also
It will be.
low key kind of happy because like I'm not happy that the race rained out for Williams Grove. I was really pumped for that. I was really excited. I felt like Matt and I were ready, but I agreed to do virtual PA Speedweek broadcasts the week after PA Speedweek. They're going to run 10 events on iRacing that are going to get broadcasted live here on Joe Donahue YouTube channel. And I, unfortunately, was going to have to start doing that on July 4th. They were going to do their first race that night. But since the rainout happened, they mimic the rainouts with that series. So now I have the 4th off, which is nice.
Good deal.
So.
Good deal. It's awesome.
So I think that's pretty much all of it. That's all she wrote. So, yeah. Thank you to everybody who watched along at some point.
Yes, thank you.
We are some goofballs. We like to talk sometimes. So tonight, 45 minutes, not quite as long as last time, but still a good conversation.
Indeed. A lot of sprint car talk.
Yeah. So to everybody here, thank you. We will see you guys hopefully from the track at Grandview, and if not, we'll probably talk again tomorrow.
We'll be doing this.
Or we'll do something. Yep. So a pleasant adieu from all of us here, and we will see you hopefully for Grandview, and if not, we will see you for Hagerstown.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Bang.